Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the Eye on College Basketball YouTube channel. I'm David Cobb from CBS Sports, joined by 247 Sports Director of Scouting, Adam Finklestein. And Adam, I cannot help but notice your backdrop's a little different than usual this week. Give us the rundown on your latest travels and what's in store for you this week.
So I am currently in Augusta, Georgia, in my hotel. Going to go over to North Augusta, South Carolina, just over the state line where the gym is here at the Nike Peach Jam, kind of the culminating event of the summer, specifically for the Nike circuit. But started on Sunday. It's going to go 8 days. Today is Tuesday, first day that NBA scouts are allowed in the gym. Tomorrow is Wednesday, first day that college coaches are allowed in the gym. So it really is kind of the pinnacle of the July recruiting period, expecting just a packed gym of evaluators to see some of the best players in the country.
Do you ever have regrets when you're like, wow, I chose a profession in which my Super Bowl is going to Augusta?
Augusta's lovely. I have no idea. I have no idea what you're referring to. It's lovely.
Well, in your defense, golf is the same
I'm here
way.
for 5 more days, man. What do you want me to? You want me to like say this on the go into the hospitality room, be like, yeah, thank you, and then they'll be like, we heard what you said about us. No, you know what? I will say this in all honesty. This is I've never been to a grassroots event where the local community rallies around it as much as the people of North Augusta and Augusta do. Because in the facility, I don't know this, but I'm pretty sure was literally they put an addition on a few years ago that was almost designed specifically for this event. So it really is like a totally unique experience. And it does, there's just a ton of support from the local community. So it is a little bit of like, you tell people that you're going to the Nike championships in North Augusta, South Carolina, and it's like, what? But like when you get here, you understand why it remains here, because it really is a cool setup.
Well, that's cool. Augusta is a low-key, really solid sports town when you think about the fact that they also host the Masters, which is the
Right.
Super Bowl of golf, which brings people in for multiple days every year as well. So not to mention for a town of that size, it's, I'm sure, massive for the economy in terms of hotel stays, meals that are eaten out, just all sorts of different economical boosts there from having Peach Jam. But we are not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about some basketball prospects, primarily those in the class of 2023, which is really beginning to take shape over this summer circuit. And though you are early in your tenure out there for this event, it sounds like you've already caught some pretty good action. In particular, we'll get into this first. A guy who we did discuss last week, but actually has some substance to discuss now. You saw a nice performance from Bronny James. Let's kind of hear a little bit more about what Bronny has shown so far down there.
He's been as aggressive as I've ever seen him. I mean, yesterday he had, I think it was 28 points on 22 shots from the floor. I can't remember a time where I saw him take 22 shots in a game. He also had 6 assists, I believe, and was just aggressive from start to finish. His Strive for Greatness team, they've kind of retooled that roster since April. They've added some new pieces. And he plays with the ball in his hand as a point guard on an exclusive basis. He was able to get loose in transition, get downhill in the open floor, showed a lot of layup making touch, just a really good finisher around the rim, even when he's not above the rim. And then made shots, had a handful of threes yesterday. So a lot of stuff, really good kind of progression from him, I would say, in terms of being able to take that next step and being the focal point of a team's offense. That's not something we've seen from him too consistently over the years. So I thought that was a very positive step, because this is a 2023 class that is really wide open. And so if yesterday becomes more of the norm instead of, the exception, then, I think it's possible that he makes a climb here in the class of 2023.
So when Bronny is playing versus when some of the other top prospects over the years have been playing, the number ones, number twos, number threes in their classes, what's the buzz like in the gym for Bronny compared, who for reference is like a 40 to 60 range, 4-star type of guy? What's the buzz like for him with his bloodlines and just the people who are congregating to watch him play versus, does it compare to when a top, 3, 4, 5 prospect is in the gym and playing?
Yeah, it's better. I mean, in terms of like the amount of people he draws. And plus LeBron was here yesterday and I think will be here all week. That's the other cool thing about the Peach Jam is that a lot of the NBA players, specifically the Nike sponsored athletes who have teams here, come back. So already just in day two, LeBron has been here, Carmelo Anthony's been here, Russell Westbrook's been here, Blake Griffin's been here. So you've seen a lot of different guys, and LeBron's here to watch his son, but Melo, Westbrook, and Griffin all have their own teams in the EYBL circuit, and they're here to support them. So yesterday, with LeBron here watching the game, with Bronny playing so well, you're always going to get kind of the packed baselines of people with their cameras trying to catch the highlights, but it's just crazy to me. Like even after the game, they go up to each other and have a moment, and then people come off the stands like with their cameras and literally kind of like surround them, almost push them into a corner of the gym, and then security comes and kind of pushes them back out. So the amount of attention that they get is, to see it firsthand is different than just kind of, oh yeah, they always have cameras on them, but to have 40, 50, 60 cameras on them at all times is just you kind of have to see it to recognize the full scope of it, and it makes you appreciate the poise that Bronny plays with. I know in the past we've talked about how he plays the right way and doesn't go out to prove anything. Just seeing the scope of the attention he gets is just reinforces how impressive it is that he plays with as much poise and kind of perspective as he does.
That stresses me out, honestly, just hearing about that. It's a little bit weird. Let's see if we can give the NBA Twitter sphere something to aggregate here. Did you see Russell Westbrook and LeBron interacting? Did they seem like they were friends, or were they just in different regions of the event?
So typically what happens is those guys watch their team, and then you don't see them in the gym all day, unless the one guy who watched multiple games yesterday was Blake Griffin. I did not see LeBron and Westbrook interact. I happened to be sitting next to Carmelo Anthony at various points yesterday, and different people kept coming up to him, total strangers who just felt entitled to ask him if the Lakers were going to get it right this year. And to his credit, he handled it, perfectly. Really, I just kept hearing him say, "We working, we're going to be good. We working." And I'm just like, my God, like what makes you equipped to come up and ask Carmelo Anthony if he's going to get it right? But hey, good for you. Again, to his credit, he just handles it like couldn't have handled it better.
Well, that's awesome. I think for any casual fans out there, just hearing these stories of the NBA players in the gym gives you a perspective of how much of a mecca for the basketball universe these summer circuit events are, not only with the NBA players in attendance who sponsor teams, but obviously pro scouts will be in the gym this week. College coaches will be back in the gyms as well. So it really is a who's who from the basketball world, especially now that Summer League has wound down. The focus has really shifted to the grassroots circuit. So
a lot of people traveling directly from Vegas to Augusta.
Really? Yeah. Yep. There you go. It's a 24/7, 365 sport now. It really is. And so Bronny's a hot topic, no doubt, but there was a matchup of two guys ranked even higher from what I understand already. What you said earlier is a Gigi Jackson versus Justin Edwards.
There've been a couple of really good matchups so far. I think that stuff usually doesn't happen by accident. But yesterday, day two, Gigi Jackson, his team CP3, which is Chris Paul's team, going up against Justin Edwards and Team Final. Team Final, of course, won the Peach Jam last year behind Derek Lively and Jalen Duren. But this is interesting because it's somewhat counterintuitive that Gigi is playing because he's going to college next year, but he hasn't formally announced that he's reclassifying. He's announced that he's going to South Carolina instead of North Carolina, but he has not said formally that it's going to be in the class of 2022 versus 23. That is imminent. I think there is no secret that he's going to end up in 22, but he just hasn't made it official yet, which is why he's allowed to play here. It's going to be interesting because, as I said, NBA scouts get here today, and he's going to be eligible for the draft in 11 months, and so they're really going to get a good look at him, potentially their first good look at him, and so it's going to be interesting to see what the feedback is. The game yesterday was from Gigi's perspective, it was he got off to a slow start offensively, really didn't get it going until the fourth quarter, not able to dominate offensively. And I know I'm teeing you up here because you've got a hot take of sorts on this one, but in your Carolina Blue over there. But it's like Gigi was dominant on the glass. I think he had 18 rebounds, but offensively, Justin Edwards, who's really a wing, was guarding him. Gigi wasn't like able to punish him in the post. Justin was able to body him up pretty good, which shouldn't have happened because Gigi is stronger, more explosive athletically. That's a mismatch he should have been able to exploit in the post. But outside of what he did on the glass, that really wasn't the case. His best offense came in the fourth quarter when he kind of got to like the mid-post area, started playing off the elbows, facing up and driving a little bit. So I would say overall it was, there's going to be a lot of questions about Gigi. He didn't, he dominated on the glass, but not in other areas of the game. NBA scouts are going to be assessing his versatility defensively. They're going to be assessing his position defensively, more defensively than offensively. He's got some versatile skill, but the defensive end of the floor, specifically his mobility and lateral quickness, is going to be the area that NBA scouts are really digging into in the next few days. And Justin Edwards, to his credit, I mean, right now he's number 4 overall in the 24/7 rankings. He came out, he was clearly energized and ready to go in that game. His game, he's a 6'7" lefty wing. His game is kind of anchored in the mid-range area, and he made a bunch of tough pull-ups to start things off. Did a great job on the glass himself, had 13 rebounds, and as I said, he guarded Gigi for most of the game, so did a good job on the defensive end of the floor. But Justin is going to have, similar concerns long-term too. I think NBA scouts are gonna be assessing just how well he moves defensively, if he can get out and guard smaller guys, and but had a good showing yesterday for sure.
So what you're telling me about Gigi Jackson actually jives pretty well with my opinion on his decision, which, as we all saw in recent days, he's no longer committed to North Carolina's 2023 class. The assumption being that he'll end up at South Carolina this next season as a reclass to 2022. Naturally, you're going to get a little bit of a meltdown within the UNC fan base and a little bit of stinks for you guys from the other ACC schools. At the end of the day, though, I don't believe that Gigi Jackson not attending North Carolina is really all that catastrophic for the Tar Heels for a couple of reasons. One, you're talking about a team that already had all 13 scholarships filled. So if Gigi Jackson is, just absolutely dead set on reclassifying to 2022, Hubert Davis was going to have to find a scholarship. Now, maybe in this era, you can put a guy, on the walk-on side, and then the NIL stuff takes care of tuition. I don't know how that works. But the fact is there was not an open roster spot via scholarship for Gigi Jackson to reclassify and join North Carolina for this season. Second of all, he's going to be 17 for the first month of the season. You're talking about a starting lineup: Caleb Love Jr., RJ Davis Jr., Leaky Black, fifth-year senior, Armando Bacot, senior, Pete Nance, in all likelihood, fifth-year senior. Yeah, I think he's fifth year out of Northwestern, either fourth or fifth year. So how is a 17-year-old necessarily going to come in and help you right away when you are a Final Four team with 4 out of 5 starters back, who has every scholarship filled? Nearly everybody on that roster is 21 or 22 years old. I mean, Gary has UNC ranked as the number 2 team in his top 25 and 1. So the assumption that, yes. And so the assumption that Gigi Jackson was going to be a transformative player for North Carolina next season is, I think, a little bit presumptuous. And I'll give you one really prominent. I'll give you 2 examples, guys. This is a hot take.
I've got one too. So yeah, let's go.
Well, Amani Bates last season, he was 17 for the majority of the season with Memphis. He was joining a veteran roster with guys like Landers Nolly and DeAndre Williams, who were big-time producers coming back for that team. And it didn't go well. Memphis didn't find its stride until Amani Bates was hurt in the second half of the season. And that's when Penny Hardaway was finally able to get that lineup pared down to the right number with the right guys, because having 13 scholarship players and having that many mouths to feed is difficult in this era. And then the other example is Peyton Watson, because UCLA last season basically had everybody back from a situation very similar to UNC's. They were a poorly seeded team that made a deep run in the NCAA tournament, brought basically everyone back, and then they added a top 10 prospect in Peyton Watson to the mix. Well, Peyton Watson averaged like 12.8 minutes a game for UCLA last season. He could barely even crack the lineup. Still gets drafted in the first round, but didn't end up being a player who helped them reach a national title. So the assumption that Gigi Jackson's loss for UNC is catastrophic, I think, is overblown. Is it ideal to lose a number 1 overall prospect? No, never is. But this is absolutely something that UNC is equipped to handle, especially when you consider that in that 2023 class, they already have a commitment from SIMEON WILCHER as well.
Yeah, so a couple of things with that. I think the context in this one is important because one of the reasons when South Carolina fired Frank Martin, or however the verbiage was, whether he resigned or whatever, but essentially when South Carolina fired Frank Martin, one of the reasons why I was so surprised at that was because Gigi Jackson initially was widely expected to commit to South Carolina, reclassify, and join Frank Martin for this coming season. So then South Carolina fires Frank Martin, and then the plan basically explodes. He ends up he commits to North Carolina. He's going to stay in the class, and that happens. So this, what we've seen in the last week, him flip-flopping, is essentially him returning to the initial plan, just under a different head coach. So, but I couldn't agree with you more. North Carolina is not a program that really needs him next season. They are poised to be national contenders next season. And if the plan is to get to the draft as quickly as you can, then he's got to go to college next season, unless you do like a Shade and Sharp plan and you enroll, but you don't play. The thing with Gigi, quite honestly, is that I think, I'm just not sure how NBA ready he is. And I'm also not sure just if his game translates to the NBA level quite as well as you would, is like a projected, quite well enough to be like a projected top 5 pick. Let me say it that way, especially in a 2023 NBA draft that is absolutely loaded. I think he's someone who would have done well to, I think there's still things he could gain by staying in the high school game for another year. I think it would potentially set him up to be a more impactful college freshman. He's now going to a South Carolina program where all the eyes are going to be on him right away. He's very young, first-year head coach. They're going to be trying to establish their culture. He's already missed summer school, so he's going to be late joining the team. There's a lot of, and he's not like, listen, even in this setting, he's not the guy you throw the ball to and you build your half-court offense around just yet. So there's a lot of things that are, there's a lot of variables that need to go his way in order for this to work out. But for North Carolina, I agree with you. If the plan was about next season, it was never a great fit. Where it made a lot more sense was in the 2023-24 season, when you're potentially losing, Baycott and Caleb Love and all those other guys, and you kind of have to, like, I don't want to say rebuild, but maybe reload a little bit. That's where it would have made a lot of sense. And I also think, although Hubert Davis has talked about playing a little bit differently than Roy Williams and has, in terms of being more 4 out, 1 in than kind of a old school 3 out, 2 in model, Gigi, I think, is best in a bit of an old school 3 out, 2 in model now, because he doesn't want to be the 5-man, but he's certainly not a wing either. So if you can play kind of a high-low action with him at the 4, it allows him to kind of do a little bit of both. And that speaks to where he is right now, but also where he hopes to be. So there's a lot of different variables there. But the thing I couldn't agree with you more on is that for North Carolina fans, you're going to be just fine. This does not impact kind of the momentum that Hubert Davis has made on the recruiting trail. And the other comparison I'll give you, although I liked yours, this one reminds me of him going to the home state school a year early when Andre Drummond reclassified to commit to UConn a year early. And UConn fans will remember he went on to be one of the best rebounders in the NBA and signed a contract for $120 million, but his freshman season at UConn was underwhelming and didn't live up to all those external expectations. And hopefully for Gigi Jackson, his freshman season doesn't follow a similar path.
Yeah, no doubt. And if you were going to retort to this, not all that big of a deal kind of argument for UNC, you would say, well, David, Adam, the last 46 national champions, and this is true, our Kevin Flaherty from the 24/7 side, who also writes for us at CBS, reported this out in January, and it came to manifest in the NCAA tournament again. So it's now the last 46 national champions that have had an eventual top 30 pick on the roster. And so you may look at UNC's roster and say, well, that's why they needed Gigi Jackson, because he would have been that top flight elite level talent. Well, Caleb Love can develop into a first round pick. They also have the number 29 overall prospect in the 2022 class coming in Seth Trimble, who could develop into a top 30 pick. And in several of those cases where the national champion produces a top 30 pick at some point, it's not in the next draft. It's not in the draft, 2 months after the national title game. It's in the draft the following year or 2 years later when someone on that roster fully blossoms. And so Caleb Love has a chance to do it. Seth Trimble has a chance to do it. There's 2 other top 100 prospects coming in. If Armando Bacot suddenly starts draining threes, which I don't expect, he could do it. So UNC, I think, will be fine.
Well, and it's also, there's no data that shows that those picks are good. That may be more of an indication of recency bias on the NBA executives' part than anything, because sometimes you see those guys make deep NCAA tournament runs, recency bias kicks in, and they get drafted higher than they should. And I think that, I think Caleb Love is going to be a good NBA player. But if they win a national championship next year and he's great in March and in April, I think that'll only help his draft stock. We've seen that time and time again. So to me, that's a little bit of is that the chicken or is that the egg, and which one is it? So I think, North Carolina is going to be just fine. They're going to be in a position to win a national championship next year. And this is obviously a big boost for a South Carolina program too, especially on the recruiting trail, generating that type of local momentum.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm sure we will get into that further. But since I'm wearing my powder blue and we've been talking about the Tar Heels.
I'm wearing my Texas, so,
their 2023 class is not in shambles, right? Because SIMEON WILCHER is still a commitment there.
Oh, North Carolina's. Yeah.
You either saw WILCHER or you're going to see him, right? Down there.
I've seen him a lot. He had a big game last night. He went for 30 for the City Rocks. I mean, this is a guy who started the EYBL season with the New York Wrens, moved over to the City Rocks midway. He was battling some ankle injuries in April. But last night it was great to see, because you see him kind of returning to getting back and hitting his stride again. And you're talking about, really a potential big lead guard. You could call him a combo guard now, but who's got good size, who can play make, who can, be really decisive with the ball on the open floor. He's got a good pull-up game, and just has not been at his best for the last couple of months because of injuries and a variety of other variables. But it all started to click for him last night. So it's just going to be, interesting to follow and see if he can keep that momentum going, because this is a City Rock squad that I think is going to be in a position to make a run here. They've got Gus Yalden in the middle. They've got Trey Autry on the wing. They've got Elijah Gertrude on the wing. So they've got a lot of different weapons. This is one of the best City Rocks teams we've seen in recent years. And I think that they're always really well coached under Jimmy Hart. So I think they're going to be poised to make a run. And if WILCHER can kind of continue to do what he did last night, you're going to see him gain all that momentum back after what was undeniably a frustrating spring for him.
No doubt. Something for UNC fans to keep an eye on there. Class of 2023, SIMEON WILCHER. Adam Finklestein and the gang at 24/7, they are going to have an abundance of content. They already do from the summer circuit. But with Peach Jam going on this week, check out 247sports.com. They've got it all covered. In fact, our Matt Norlander is going down there to join them. Probably going to be hanging more with the college coaches on the college basketball side than focus so much on the prospects and the scouting. But the point is, at 24/7 and CBS, we've got you covered really all around with the summer circuit as the basketball world converges on Augusta, Georgia. So Adam, appreciate you joining us, and hope you have a good time down there. And enjoy that hotel.
Just don't come down here, because the Augusta residents are going to hear what you said. They're going to be very unhappy. So just leave it to myself, Norlander, Bossy, Travis Branham's down here, Deshaun London's coming down here. So this is. But I would recommend you staying where you are after that Augusta slander.
Hey, give the man a key to the city. He's putting Augusta on his back and riding.
The beaches are phenomenal.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think part of it's just jealousy. I've always wanted to go even just to a practice round at the Masters, but even that is so difficult to
you can't get in. You can't get in. Everybody tries. You can't get in. Yeah.
Well, maybe one of these days I'll get down there either for a Peach Jam or a golf tournament or something. But until then, Thanks for joining us on the Ion College Basketball YouTube channel, and we'll catch you next time.